They didn't just burn firewood. They burned the last shield a veteran had against a Montana winter, torched every cord I'd stacked with my own hands, every hope I had of keeping my daughter safe. You see, out here, winter isn't just a season, it's an adversary that tests a man down to his bones. Folks talk a big game about community, but when the temperature drops below zero, the only thing between you and a long cold night is what you've built for yourself. Funny thing is, those neighbors, those folks behind triple-pane glass who thought rules would keep them warm, never once asked about the old iron key I kept on a nail by the door. The one my grandfather left, the one that could open up the spillway above the development and send everything below it back to the Stone Age. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The story really begins in October. Out here, that's when the cold stops sneaking around and starts landing real punches. The smell of iron, of pine needles frozen mid-fall, it hits different after you've spent 2 decades carrying a rifle for people who couldn't be bothered to remember your name. When I came back from the sand, I brought home a duffel bag, a stack of discharge papers, and a kid who needed silence at night, not fireworks. I found this cabin tucked in a narrow valley outside Helena, 30 minutes and a world away from anywhere people cared about. The place wasn't fancy, built in the 60s by folks who believed a man should be able to see weather coming before it hits. The deed, older than I am, hid a clause about the emergency spillway and a manual gate at the reservoir. My grandfather's work, his name etched into the concrete. The first time I ran my thumb over those letters, I felt a calm settle in my chest I hadn't felt since before everything changed. So I did what I knew. Started prepping like it was a garden. Dropped birch with the chainsaw, split it until my back ached and my hands were raw. By the end of August, I had ramparts of wood stacked along the fence, a shed I built myself, propane locked in steel, food lined up like a quartermaster's dream. Not a family eating wallpaper paste when the grid failed. Maggie, my daughter, watched. So did the neighbors behind their glass, trying not to look. Most people came here for the view, the quiet, the rules. They liked knowing nothing would ever look out of place. They waved when I passed some of them. Most just turned away. Then the HOA came calling Karen Stratton president. Drove up in a spotless Escalade Ridge one-plate sunglasses big enough to see your reflection in. Mr. Harland, she said, all honeyed authority. We've had concerns about your outdoor storage. It was never about safety. She quoted bylaws that didn't exist, told me to clean up the visual clutter. Left her first notice in my hand like a dead fish. I didn't bother reading it, just stuck it in my back pocket and kept splitting wood. The second notice came taped to my door. This time the fines started stacking up. They took photos of my woodpile, my propane cage, circled them like targets. Red ink threats of forced removal. I read the actual bylaws, highlighted every line, found nothing about firewood. Took a Sharpie and wrote survival over their aesthetics. Maggie saw it all, 16 years old and sharp as a tack. They're not going to stop, are they? She asked. No, they wouldn't. Not while Karen was on her throne. We started documenting everything. Cameras on the porch, on the shed, every letter scanned and filed. Every night I made a new folder on the laptop. By the time winter hit, I had a binder thicker than the old Sears catalog. And winter came hard. Snow drifted high, the world outside turned quiet and deadly. The county plow didn't bother with our road. The HOA sent their own to clear only their precious cul-de-sacs. My drive stayed untouched. The fines, though, they never stopped. $75, then $150, $275, all from some generic email with Karen's signature stamped at the bottom like royal decree. Maggie asked, "Can they really make us leave?" I looked her in the eyes and told her no. Not unless they wanted to drag me out. The first time they tried something more than letters was the night the temperature dropped to 12 below. The fire burned hot, the windows fogged, and I stayed up cleaning my grandfather's rifle, not for violence, just for comfort. The motion alert chimed on my phone at 2 a.m. Nothing but swirling snow, but the rage that coiled in my gut was real enough. They weren't just harassing me. They were threatening the last thing I truly owned, the ability to keep my daughter alive. The HOA hearing, when it finally came, was held in their lemon-scented log community center. I shaved, pressed my old dress blues, pinned every ribbon I had left. Intimidation, not nostalgia. I brought the binder, dropped it on their folding table, and let them choke on the evidence. Every fake bylaw, every real one. And the kicker, a photo from their own brochure advertising rustic Montana charm with a woodpile bigger than mine. They tried to compromise. Build a fence around my firewood, pay a fee, submit designs. I told Karen exactly where she could put her path forward. That night, a young woman found me by the dumpsters, fined for painting her porch the same color as Karen's house. "You're not the only one," she whispered. I gave her my card, told her to document everything. Solidarity born in the cold. That's when I knew they'd drawn first blood. 2 nights later, the shed went up in flames. I saw the door ajar, smelled the accelerant, heard the propane pop. Maggie called 911 while I tried to fight the fire with a frozen hose and a shovel. By sunrise, everything was ash and twisted metal. Chief Griggs, my old friend, showed me where the fire started, how someone sabotaged my camera. We both knew who'd sent the message. That morning, I watched the video, 2 figures, hooded, red gas can glinting in the porch light. Not enough for an arrest. Enough for war. Ben, my lawyer, called. "They want you to snap," he said. "Don't give them the satisfaction. Document. Wait. Whatever you do, don't touch that spillway." Yet. I waited, but not passively. Spread Grandpa's maps across the kitchen table, traced the old blue line, the flood channel the HOA's engineers had quietly erased. The forecast, 3 feet of snow followed by an early thaw. That kind of pressure, it finds the path of least resistance. Right through Phase 3, right through their new homes. When the thaw hit, Maggie's fever spiked and the house dropped below 40. No more wood, no more propane. County emergency wouldn't come. Karen's gates kept us and help out. That's when I smiled. Walked through waist-deep snow to the spillway. Dug it out, key cold in my hand, turned the wheel just enough to let the water know it was time. The thaw was merciless. The snowpack vanished. Water roaring through the hills. I opened the spillway for real, 3 full turns of the wheel, metallic shriek echoing down the valley. The floodwater started as a trickle, then surged, chewing up everything in its path. The lower development went under fast car alarms, chaos, Karen herself standing ankle-deep screaming into her phone. The sheriff showed up, nowhere to go, news helicopters circling overhead. Within days, the truth unraveled. The county discovered the illegal builds, the forged maps, the erased warnings. The HOA collapsed. Karen skipped town insurance, refused every claim. Neighbors finally showed up, coffee apologies, even help rebuilding the shed. Maggie painted the sign, "Harland and Daughters Outpost." A plain envelope showed up one evening, Karen's handwriting, 1 line. "You were right. I was wrong. I fed it to the new stove, watched the words curl into smoke. Now the shed stands proud. Chickens peck where propane used to sit, and the neighbors gather in the evenings for potluck, for music, for stories that no longer taste like ash." Maggie toasted me one night. To Dad, who taught us the only way to stay warm is to let the water run where it was always meant to. For the first time, I realized victory isn't about beating your enemies. It's about having people who finally see you, finally understand what you were fighting for. Funny thing, after the last winter, after the fire, after the flood, after justice finally landed quiet and true, I found myself at peace. Not because the threats were gone, but because the mountain, the water, and everyone who mattered knew who we were, what we stood for, and why we would never ask permission to survive again. So where does the line get drawn? When does standing your ground become something more than just survival? When is justice earned, and when is it just gravity having its say? Maybe you've been there yourself, forced to defend what mattered, pushed past the limit. Share your story. Tell me where you draw your line. Because in the end, all we really have is each other and the simple, stubborn knowledge that some things once set in motion can never be stopped.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video của mình.